Yo, what is going on, everybody? So I hope this camera angle is okay. I always get so keen to chat to you guys that I forget to check my shit. That's cool. Hang on. There we go. That's fine. That's fine. All right. So let's talk about today's article. I have come across this. There's a bunch of things I've come across in the last few days, and I'm going to have to do a few videos over a few days to get to this. But this is one in particular I found quite interesting. Now, this article that I have for you today is talking about essentially Jordan Peterson's daughter speaking out against the censorship towards her father. Jordan Peterson's daughter here says crying snowflake staff at Penguin Random House Canada should be fired after their bid to block conservative psychologist's new book. And quoting an article on the subject of her dad's work, Michaela tweeted how to improve business in 2 steps. 1, identify crying adults. Step 2, fire. If what they are required to do for work is the source of their tears, then maybe it's not the right job for them. So, yes. But I'm going to get into this. Jordan Peterson's daughter said crying staff should be fired after they blocked to book the Conservatives' new book. I agree, to be completely honest. And look, I'm not into this. Like, I don't like the idea that you should just fire someone because you don't agree with them. But when your employees are trying to leverage their emotions to take control over the direction of your business, fuck them off. Get rid of them. Get rid of them now. That's my view. Anyway, and you guys might be saying, well, how does this relate back to guys? Why are you talking about Jordan Peterson? This is a channel for men who want to improve themselves. And I'm going to get to that. And it's actually really important because this all ties in together. So, this is a lot more relevant to us than we actually would typically think about. Here we go. Here's the key. Junior staff. Right, junior staff at the publishing house tried to block the publication of Beyond Order, 12 More Rules for Life, calling author Jordan Peterson an icon of white supremacy and hate speech. And why it's important that they're junior staff is because these are the staffs fresh out of university. And I always talk about how university are the indoctrination centers. And these people have typically got like a liberal arts degree. And I'm not going to denigrate all liberal arts graduates because I think that there is definitely a place for the more malleable thinking that can come out of an arts degree if you are able to kind of take a bit from both sides and really think for yourselves and look at the greater picture and not just listen to what particular people are telling you and make that form your entire worldview. So in a follow-up tweet, Michaela shared a link to Amazon writing book for sale here. And I'll probably go and buy that book just because I want to piss leftists off. And also because I think Jordan Peterson has, and guys, I know that he previously spoke ill of our community. I've just got a bit of a cold. No, it's not that one. I know he's previously spoken ill of our community. However, he did apologize. Right? And some of you may not think that apology is sincere. But the fact that he's man enough to go on record and say, well, maybe I wasn't right the first time around. And this is exactly the type of thinking that I encourage people who are art students and graduates of the arts to embrace and take on board. Because when you can think like that, when you can actually change your thinking in light of new information, which is essentially taking the red pill in many ways. And sometimes, sometimes we take the red pill and we find out stuff about what's happening to ladies that we don't know about. So this is not just a one-sided thing. This is not just all about men or all about women. This is a much greater, much more important thing because the universities and Marxists are taking hold of the minds of young people. And this is just further evidence of it because they don't, and the mainstream media is complicit. The mainstream media are the enemy of the people because they are the ones pushing that Jordan's this, he's that. They're the ones pushing that, people like, Donovan Sharp, who's just out there trying to help guys become better interacting with the other half of the population. You know, guys like Better Bachelor, who's one of the most balanced and one of the biggest gentlemen I know in the manosphere. You know, they're attacking him. Like, come on, man. Like, at what point do you go, you know what? Maybe it's not just all everybody else. So let's continue. Jordan's well known for his grow up approach to adulthood and his 2018 book Rules for Life, an antidote to chaos. And look, I know that hearing grow up, like it's kind of condescending, but there's something to that, I think. And I saw, and I've got to say this, I saw the most powerful conversation, probably the most powerful conversation I've seen in 10 years the other day on Solo TV 84's channel. If you haven't seen him before, go check out Solo TV 84. He did an interview with Hotep Jesus, a man which I have an incredible amount of respect for, and I resonate with on a far deeper level than maybe a lot of people do. But there's just, when he was speaking, like I felt it, because I'm like, this is how I feel about the world. And I haven't heard anyone else but me articulate it in the same way that I feel, or even close. So shout out to you, Hotep Jesus and Solo TV 84. But yeah, good. And I think that we do need, as guys, as men, look, we're the ones with the testosterone, guys. Look, as much as it sucks, right? We don't want to go, oh, well, that's, you know, that's double standard. Well, you know what? It is a double standard. We're the testosterone. We've got the testosterone. They've got the estrogen. You know what? It's not in our best interests to try and make the double standard balanced in some ways. In other ways, it is. But we as men are not going to get anywhere by saying to the ladies, you need to take the same level of responsibility for everything that we do. Because while I agree with that, it's not actually going to improve us. Do you see where I'm going with this? And what I speak about is absolutely about improving us as men, and not about forcing others to raise to the same level as us, because that's just asking for equal outcomes. And if we have equal outcomes, then everyone's the same, right? So what I'm going to say is that, hang on, come on. I don't know if you guys can hear it. My washing machine's beeping in the background. I'm just doing my shirts for work. So yeah, you know what, guys? We do need to take responsibility for our own lives. We do need to be absolutely accountable for everything that happens. We do need to say everything that happens in our life is our fault. And you might go, well, you know, you're just blaming us. Guys, like, let's take a step back. If we put ourselves into a situation where bad things can happen to us, that has to be our fault. Because if we put the fault on someone else, we're going to spend our whole life blaming that person. And it's going to build anger. It's going to build resentment. It's going to build frustration. This is why I've been able to build such a level of calm in my heart in recent times, because I take responsibility for absolutely everything in my life. Even if something sucks, even if it happens to me because I'm born male, right? The fact that I've engaged with someone or put myself into a situation or taken on a task that ultimately gets me set back, that's a lesson for me. And the lessons that we learn make us more powerful in the long term. And I think that that's really a good thing. So I'm going to continue here. And I'm not going to read this whole article. I'm just going to get a couple of little snippets, because a lot of it's just sort of the usual stuff that we've heard before. And look, he has been hailed. Here we go. The media saying, oh, he's been hailed by the right for his fearless refusal to bow down to political correctness, and ostracized by the left for his controversial opinions. He's been hailed by people with common sense for not bowing down to people without common sense. That's what's happened. That's what's happened. That's all it is. And by the way, I just wanted to say a shout out to Ryan Lincoln Gaming. Big love to you, brother. Says Sydney in the building. J. Peterson Book Fund. Drink the SJW tears. Indeed. And among Peterson's views is the notion that white privilege itself is racist, and that laws which force people to use transgender pronouns are unconstitutional, both of which are correct. And that view that notion of white privilege is racist is something that was expressed by a member of parliament over in the UK the other day, and I did a video on that also. And that lady who expressed that opinion happened to be black, and I believe she's of African descent. So, and by the way, guys, not everyone that's dark is automatically African, just for the record. Here we go. Michaela said, staff cried and expressed dismay with the decision to publish Beyond Order 12 More Rules for Life. And that was the one she said about firing crybabies at work. During a tense town hall, staff cried and expressed dismay with the publishing giant's decision to publish Beyond Order 12 More Rules for Life. One junior employee, aka one SJW, freshly indoctrinated out of university from a liberal arts degree, says, he is an icon of hate speech and transphobia, and the fact that he's an icon of white supremacy, regardless of the context of this book. I'm not proud to work for a company that publishes him. Go work for Vice or Huffington Post then. You're probably qualified for it. You probably got a gender studies degree. Go work for them. You don't like working for this publishing house? Good. Go somewhere else. Some were crying, they said. And one blamed Peterson for radicalizing their father. Oh, poor baby. Did your dad come to his senses and realize that you were a fucking snowflake SJW? And now he's not putting up with your bullshit anymore? And now you can't get away with anything because he actually realizes that you have to take responsibility for your own actions and your own outcomes in life, and that he's not your freaking white knight in shining armor that comes along and picks up the pieces every time you screw up and don't take responsibility for your actions? Yeah, that's what I thought. Another said the book would have a negative effect on their non-binary friend. What negative effect would the book have? You haven't even read the book. You haven't even read it. You just see something from Jordan Peterson, you're like, oh, it's going to hurt my friend. No, your friend will get hurt if your friend decides to get hurt from it. If telling your friend that a bit of common sense doesn't go astray, that taking responsibility for their actions is something they need to do, if all of that stuff's going to hurt your friend, good. Because your friend needs to harden the fuck up, because life is not easy. And I give that message to anyone that wants to ask me questions, because where you put emotion before logic, you're not going. And look, I understand that emotions are important. We all have emotions. Man, I get emotional too sometimes. Like this shit that gets to me, right? But I take what it is that gets to me, I process it, I decide what my path's going to be moving forward, and I release it and I go forward and I continue about my life. I'm not going to pretend like men don't have emotions. Like no man's ever cried. Like we're somehow, like no one ever said to me, oh, you can't cry because that's not being a man. No one ever said that to me. It's just like, I have a responsibility to others. And maybe that's detrimental to myself, but it's a responsibility that I'm happy to bear. And I'll take that on. But my responsibility to others is not in the sense that I need to be held accountable for other people's poor actions and poor choices. But the accountability that I have to others is more one of leadership and doing the right thing and setting a good example. So, and of course they do. The company has a diversity and inclusion committee, which received more than 70 complaints about the book. Of course it did. And I bet the 70 students were all freaking SJWs or manginas trying to get laid from the female employees that were upset. And they're like, oh, I put in a complaint as well. Will you have sex with me now? Get the fuck out of here. Come on, man. The company's since June's been doing all these anti-racist and allyship things, and them publishing Peterson's book completely goes against all of this. It just makes their previous efforts seem completely performative. And that's all it is. It's performative. It's virtue signaling. That's what it is. But Random House is standing its ground, and good on Random House. See, because Random House understands that woke doesn't equal profit. Random House understands that people are going to buy this book in significant quantities. Random House understands that their junior employees are way less valuable than their senior employees. And I'm not saying because, older people are more valuable than young people. No, I'm talking more specifically about the junior employees that are crying about something that are crying about someone being able to hear an opinion differs from theirs, because you need to hear different opinions. Eric Wade just brought up a very good point. Random House saw what happened to Gillette. Yes, they did. They did see what happened to Gillette. They're not stupid. But guess what? The junior employees that were referred to in this article don't care what happened to Gillette. They think what happened to Gillette was a good thing. And they think that not publishing Peterson's book is a good thing. They are the real fascists. They are the real authoritarians. They are the ones who, as they progress in their career, will become more and more powerful. And we need to spread this message so that more and more people become disenfranchised with this dogmatic leftist ideology, which is going to have grave consequences for the world moving forward. Not because it's going to make things fair for everyone, but because they're going to have absolute dictatorial control over what people say moving forward, and what they do, and what they read, and what they hear, and what they see, and where they go, and who they have friendships with, and who they're connected with, and what social media platforms they use, and what bank they can use, and how much money they can get. It's not just about a book, guys. This deeply impacts us because the United Nations is pushing for a one world government, and they have a feminist agenda. And I've talked about this many times. If you go to the at UN Women on Instagram, you can scroll down, you can find their post. It says, "My feminist agenda, generation equality." Of course, they're calling it equality, but it's not really, because it's only pushing for rights for half the population. So don't take my word for it. If you want, you can go back into numerous of my videos and YouTube censors. If you think that I'm lying about this, feel free to flick me an email. I'd be more than happy to send you the link to that Instagram post. In fact, I'm going to put it in the description below so you don't have to go to the effort. You're welcome. Right. The two of them in Russia. I've actually stood here. I really like that. It's a sight to see. That picture doesn't do it justice. It's kind of washed out. On Twitter, critics said the staff were trying to censor free speech with their attempts to block the book's publication. And that's exactly what it is. Now, I am glad that this particular person on Twitter said this, because this is the type of rational discourse that we need to have. Because it's okay if something's not your cup of tea, but that doesn't mean you get to silence it or completely eliminate it. This person says, Jordan Peterson is not my cup of tea, but dismayed to see Penguin Random House Canada in the grip of the same anti-free speech convulsions we're witnessing in too many places. Now the book industry too, right? So look, I tend to like Jordan Peterson. I've seen a lot of stuff. There's a lot of rational benefit to be had from a lot of the things that he says. Not everything I totally agree with, but most of the time. And I've met him personally as well, which is that was a byproduct of me resonating with a lot of what he says. I didn't meet him and then go, oh my God, I met him, so I like him. Right? It didn't happen like that. So yeah, I agree with that. And look, you see, where do you draw the line with free speech, right? Do you draw the line at patently fake news, like the media pushing the lie that hang on a second, let me just plug this in. It's about to go dead. Hang on. Sorry about that, guys. Should be more prepared. But yeah, I mean, for example, saying that Donald Trump has never, ever, ever denounced white supremacy. I mean, that is patently false. And for mainstream media outlets to time and 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 time again to put that out there as absolute unassailable fact, that is absolute fake news. That should be, look, that kind of thing where there is so much substantial evidence. I think that where you can say, look, here is a video of Donald Trump saying, I denounce white supremacists. And then you turn around and say, he's never denounced white supremacists. Yeah, censor the mainstream media on that particular thing because it's patently false and they have so much power. I think there needs to be a higher standard held to the mainstream media than what is held to people on Twitter. Because, you know, look, people on social media, people in the street, we're all going to have different opinions. We're all going to disagree. Some of us are sometimes going to tell other people things which we think are true, but they're not. But when you have evidence in front of you saying, I denounce this, and then you say, oh, this person has never denounced this, you are lying. You are spreading propaganda. That is not like, I don't really like that term. It's not okay, but it's not okay. Like, it's not cool. It's not acceptable for that to happen, in my view. And look, Amazon's been doing this for a few years, for multiple years as well. Whenever people complain to Amazon, they've got SJWs working there as well. This is the same thing. So yeah, what next? Book burnings, one person said. Imagine working for a book publishing company and not supporting free speech. And don't give me that. Not publishing isn't censorship crap. That's not what this is about. Another said. Peterson's controversial opinions include not adhering to transgender laws and that the notion of white privilege is racist. See, the transgender laws are compelling speech, which is against the law. So the law that they put in place is actually in breach of the law. That's why he's not adhering to it. And I don't blame him. And he's all openly said, I will call someone by their preferred pronoun if they ask me to, but I'm not going to be compelled by the government to govern my own speech for fear of being in trouble with the law. And I totally agree with that. What have we got here? So in a 2018 exchange on the British TV network Channel 4, he told interviewer Kathy Newman that young men were crying out to be told to grow up and be more competent, and that women deeply wanted them to. And look, we shouldn't be doing things for women. We should be doing it for themselves. And I think that growing ourselves and becoming more competent is beneficial to us as men. I truly do, and I've experienced it myself, and I know so many people that have also experienced it, and it's the same outcome every single time. The idea you can target an ethnic group with a collective crime regardless of their specific innocence or guilt, regardless of the constituent elements of that group, there's absolutely nothing more racist than that. It's absolutely abhorrent. That's what he said. I agree with that. I don't think young men hear words of encouragement. Some of them never work, and some of them never in their entire lives. Young men are starving for this sort of message. Why in the world do they have to derive it from a lecture on YouTube? That is correct. That is correct. And women deeply want men who are competent and powerful. And I don't mean power in that they can exert tyrannical control over others. That's not power, that's corruption. Power is competence. That is also true. Newman was slammed for repeatedly putting words in his mouth and failing to catch him out. And where was the... See, and here's the thing, right? And feminists are going to be like, well, no, men are always encouraged. But no, men just shut up, pronounced the Democrat politician Mazie Keiko Hirona amid the confirmation hearings for America's new Supreme Court Justice Brett Kavanaugh. Which men in particular she was addressing, we can't be sure. It is clear she wasn't addressing any particular type of men or specific group of male colleagues. It would appear that she was addressing the male community at large. Right? So to come out and say that, men are always encouraged, it's completely false. Completely false. Right? And I have so much evidence of boys failing at school and feminist groups actively campaigning against those boys being assisted in their schooling. Right? Because, they've got all the privilege, they've already got an advantage, patriarchy, blah, blah, blah. By the way, I've got some damning evidence proving that Australia is not a patriarchy. And I'm talking like government employee numbers and salaries that are not counted in the gender wage gap. And how many women are in control of government, like high-level government positions and positions of power. Yeah. That thing you said was dominated by men, the government? Not true. But I'll do that in another video. I'm not going to go into that today. Anyway, so yeah, here we go. Jordan Peterson's an alt-right white supreme. I don't know a ton about him, but this caught me off guard. Is this factual or sensitive people overreacting? I'm really asking. Yeah, it is people overreacting. I've heard these accusations before, but I've yet to see one single video where he engaged in hate speech or transphobia. I've yet to see one single video linking him to white supremacy. Surely there's video to support this claim. No, there's not video to support the claim because it never happened. And they just got their feelings hurt because he's talking too much logic for their ideologically possessed brains. So anyway, Yeah, so none of that's true about Peterson. They should fire any employees who don't believe in free speech at a publisher. Um, and look, should we be having books out there that teach you how to destroy other people? Maybe not. But books like this, nothing wrong with it. Any such tearful stuff? Yeah. Look, I'm not going to go on about that. But this is another example, right? Amazon reverses decision to pull unreported truth's COVID book that questions the effectiveness of masks after he said censorship is alive and well. So Amazon are doing it. Exactly as Eric Wade said before. They got busted doing it. Right? See, censored again after being published. And I told the Amazon KDP team I was putting out another booklet so their automated review wouldn't do this. Yay. And this was another Penguin article. I'm not going to go through this whole thing, but there's just a tiny little portion that I wanted to highlight because it didn't really cover it in the other one. Where is it? So they said, we announced yesterday we'll publish Jordan Peterson's new book Beyond Order this coming March. Immediately following the announcement, we held a forum and provided a space for our employees to express their views. Do they do that for other books? I don't think they do. I don't think they would do that for other books. So why this one? It's a very good question. And you got to ask yourself that. Who's in control at these places? Fortunately, the people that ultimately are in control made the common sense decision to keep the book out there. But yeah, Peterson is controversial because he criticizes the foundations of belief among those who see themselves as the vanguard of a revolution. In that sense, they aren't much interested in any viewpoints, whether they agree or not. They're only interested in Peterson is whether they can manipulate, twist, mangle, and rip out of context anything he says in order to make him appear to be a radical hater, a white supremacist, anti-woman, anti-LGBTQ fanatic. And that's exactly what they're doing. That's exactly what they're doing. And now that we've sort of covered those two there, I'm just going to quickly touch on one other thing, because Target also reversed the decision to pull back a book that was called Transphobic by another Twitter user. And when you actually look at the profiles of these Twitter users, you start to understand exactly who these type are. Why stop here? Why not burn the books that left-wing activists want you to cancel? Tom Cotton blasted the big box store. That's right. And I'm not going to actually read most of this article, but I just wanted to share with you these tweets that they've kind of collated in here for me, because this is what's important. This is the collection of it. Someone says, apologies, I brought the trolls. My little forever buddies can be quite cruel. You break yourself if you let yourself be broken. Yeah, that's true. If you let yourself be broken, then you will be broken. So last Wednesday, a Twitter user who identifies as trans called out a Target for selling the book. Now, this book is this, Irreversible Damage by Abigail Shreya. And I'm going to see if I can get a quick description of this book. Here we go. The trans epidemic sweeping teenage girls. Until just a few years ago, gender dysphoria, severe discomfort in one's biological sex, was vanishingly rare. It was typically found in less than 0.01% of the population, emerged in early childhood, and affected males almost exclusively. But today, whole groups of female friends in colleges, whole groups, you know, that in-group preference, you know, the hive mind, you know, the collective thought. Yeah, that one. High schools and even middle schools across the country are coming out as transgender. These are girls who have never experienced any discomfort in their biological sex until they heard a coming out story from a speaker at a school assembly or discovered the internet community of trans influencers. Unsuspecting parents are awakening to find their daughters enthralled to hip trans YouTube stars and gender-affirming educators and therapists who push life-changing interventions on young girls, including medically unnecessary double mastectomies and puberty blockers that can cause permanent infertility. Abigail, a writer for the Wall Street Journal, has dug deep into the trans epidemic, talking to the girls that agonized parents, the counselors, and the doctors who enable gender transitions, as well as to detransitioners, young women who bitterly regret what they have done to themselves. Coming out as transgender immediately boosts these girls' social status. Shreya finds, yes, it sure does. It does boost their social status. It gives them more validation, and validation is at the fundamental root of almost everything that women do, just like gaining respect and acceptance is at the fundamental root. And some people will disagree with me on this, but I'd love to have a conversation with anyone that does. And we'll talk about why I say this. But it's at the fundamental root for most people and of most things in our lives that determines our actions and how we move forward in the world. So I'd boost their girls' social status. But once they take the first steps of transition, it's not easy to walk back. That's right. It's not easy. And it doesn't boost your social status. It just boosts the amount of sympathy that people have for you. And people are nicer to you because they have sympathy for you, because they think that you're going through a tough time when really you're just seeking validation. But that's just my opinion. So let's share these tweets that these activists made. Ask Target, why are you selling this book? Now let's have a look at the profile. My only personality trait is that I'm transgender. One half of Pet Wife and Dirty Taylor. So here's the thing. She's openly telling us that the only identifying trait about herself, the only thing of any significance in her life is the fact that she is transgender. She's not a critical thinker. She's not a friend. She's not a daughter or son or whatever. She's not any of these things, right? She's not a sports person. She's not an academic. She's just a transgender person, and that's everything about her. So when everything about you is your identity with a certain ideological framework, then you will do everything you can within your power to have that take dominance in your life. And you're going to push that at every opportunity. And I realize that she's not that which you just said, Eric Wade, but I also value this channel because there's guys out here that need to hear this message. And unfortunately, there are some transgender activists working at YouTube who would be chomping at the bit to take my channel down over me saying what was just said. So let's go to the next bit. This person has then taken the screenshots of this book and quoted along with some text, a retweet of the tweet we just saw. Says, I think the trans community deserves a response from Target as to why they are selling this book about the transgender epidemic sweeping the country. Trigger warning, transphobia. This person is she/they, trans woman, horror, producer, musician, polyamorous, trantifa. Oh my goodness. Trantifa, activist, vegan, hashtag Black Lives Matter. Tells you a lot about the ideological possession levels of this person. When that's all of that stuff is what they're specifically about. However, I will give my respect at least a little bit in the sense that they've at least said that, hey, I'm a producer and I'm a musician as well. And not just she, they, trans woman, polyamorous, trantifa, activist, vegan, Black Lives Matter. So now we go to the next tweet. Target says, thank you so much for bringing this to our attention. We have removed this book from our assortment. Huh. And then Abigail said, Target just made my book disappear. Does it bother anyone that woke activists and spineless corporations now determine which book, what Americans are allowed to read? So we've got Target, you've got Amazon, you've got Random House Penguin Books, which didn't censor Jordan Peterson's book, but almost did. All of these people, all of these companies, and so many more, including YouTube, including Facebook, including Twitter, including all of the companies that basically control the information that we get, the government, the media, book publishers, and the internet, our four sources of information. Oh, and of course the school system, but that's full of activist teachers who have been indoctrinated in leftist ideology in university. So they're basically no better than the other four that I just mentioned. This is the assault on information. This is the assault on the truth. This is the assault on men, common sense, and conservative people that is sweeping the entire globe. And guys, we need to unite together and stand up against this. We need to share our knowledge with every single guy that we chat to. I mean, maybe not like go up to the guy, where you're buying a petrol at the service station, be like, hey, did you know about what they did to Jordan Peterson? But like when you're having conversation with friends, bring up these topics, have conversations about what's going on. Talk about how Target is bowing down to Trantifa activists, right? Their words, not mine. Talk about it. Talk about how Amazon is censoring things. Talk about how Twitter is putting fact checks on Donald Trump's tweets, but not on Nancy Pelosi's and not on the mainstream medias. All right? Talk about how all this stuff is happening. Pull up the evidence online. Show them. Red pill every guy you know that you care about, because it is on us as men to unite together and say, no, enough of the BS. We're not doing this anymore. Because the truth will only be heard if we say it. Because if we don't say it, it doesn't get heard. And if it doesn't get heard, nobody knows it. That's why nobody knows the domestic violence rates against men, because nobody says it. Why? Because the people that do talk about it only talk about the other half of the population. Why do they only talk about the other half of the population? Because they want 100% of the money for 50% of the people. That is a fact. Anyway, gentlemen, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope all of you got some value out of it and, got something that you can take away or it made you think. Gentlemen, I thank you to Ryan Lincoln Gaming for the super chat earlier. And thank you to my subscribers to the channel. We've got Grin Reaper, Ryan Lincoln Gaming, Aussie MGTOW Bear. And did I miss anyone? I just want to make sure that I didn't. Because, I do appreciate you guys for being subscribed to the channel. And it does definitely help out. Because, look, I pay every month for StreamYard. I'm buying equipment. I pay for vidIQ so we can get this stuff out there more. It's not cheap running a YouTube channel, guys. I'm telling you. No, I think. Oh, and Ryan says, thank you for the lesson, man. I appreciate you. Gentlemen, it has been a blast. I'm sorry if I missed anyone. Thank you all for coming in. I look forward to catching you in the next video. If you do want to donate via PayPal as well, the link is in the description. And I've provided source links to a number of the different things that I showed you today. But until next time, peace.